Welcome back to another episode of the People Lab podcast, both on YouTube and this is on the podcast as well. So wherever you listen to your audio podcast, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can also access wherever you listen to your audio podcasts on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, wherever you get that. At the People Lab, our mission is very simple. We solve the problem of division and disunity in the workplace. We do that by partnering with organizations to move their team members to becoming teammates. And we do that by focusing on four main topics: communication and culture, execution and teamwork, leadership and supervision, and personal development and growth. And today's conversation is all about personal development and growth. So I'm really excited to dive right in. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe and follow the podcast. Also, if you really want to stay connected with us, we've added a new newsletter that we send out at least twice a month. And I'd love for you to go to subscribe to that at our website. It's MikeConnCoaching.com. And as soon as you get there, there's this button you can click that says join our email list. We'd love for you to do that. You're going to get great content that's going to be coming at you. We're also going to spotlight some great organizations and some leaders and some thought leaders and all kinds of stuff that we see people doing good. So love for you to be part of the community. Thank you so much for being part of that. And of course, with this video, we'd love for you to subscribe and like and share. So as we dive into today's conversation, remember it's all about personal development and growth. And I'm going to start this by asking you a couple of questions. Number one, who are you becoming? Who are you becoming? It sounds like a trick question, but it's not. Who are you becoming? And that question is a little bit squishy. It's a little bit difficult, a little bit hard to answer. So let me ask it in a different way. Who are the people who are following you becoming? Not who are you becoming, who are the people who are following you becoming? Because the people who are following you, they're becoming like their leader, which is you. Right, so I'm going to ask the question again. Who are the people following you becoming? Who are you becoming? You've heard me say this a lot. If you're new to our community, man, we're so glad that you're here. But if you've been around for a little bit, you've heard me say this a lot. Hey, build it and they will come is a great premise for a baseball movie from 1989. But that is not the way to grow. That's not the way to lead. That's not the way to develop. So what we've got to do is we've first got to see, okay, where are we? And where are we heading? Who are we today and who are we becoming? So that's a great launch to our conversation today. You know, there's this kind of a push and pull today in the self-help world. Like people say, well, we just need another self-help book about it. And then there is this collective eye roll. Like, we just need some more self-help. And then, it's this huge eye roll, especially, whoever you are. A lot of times people have had it up to here with self-help, and they're like, hey, this self-help isn't really helping myself out very much, right? So today I want to bring you a little bit of a different angle on self-help. Instead of trying to help yourself, instead of self-help being the lane, what if we tilt it just a little, and instead of it being self-help, it's self-discovery? Because in self-help, it's kind of got this negative connotation. I say negative connotation, I guess not if you're one of the authors who's written all these books on self-help, right? I mean, then, hey, man, I love that you're talking about self-help. Go get my book. Don't kid yourself. I'm in the process of writing a book or two myself. Maybe it will also help you, right? So, but there's this negative connotation with self-help that kind of is like a stereotypical used car salesman, like slick hair and hey, we can get you into it for just a low payment of $19.95 or whatever that is, right? Self-help seems like it's just a lot of noise. Today, I don't want to ask you about self-help. I want to ask you about your self-discovery, because that's a different thing. That's a different thing entirely. In self-help, we don't look at what's broken and how can we achieve this new success. We look at how can we minimize the damage? How can we help be part of the problem? How can we stop the free fall? Whether it's a budgeting thing, how can we help ourselves set up a budget? Whether it's a physical thing, lose weight, whether it's all this different stuff. Whenever we think of self-help, we immediately go to like the deep end, like on how bad it is, right? So I'm not pitching that for you today. And I don't think you should listen to that yourself either. Because that road gets dark and twisty in a hurry. If it's all about self-help, then you've just got to say, man, this is how bad it is, right? It's not that question. Like for self-discovery, it's an entirely different thing. You're not looking to try to find what's wrong or what's broken so you can then help yourself, right? It's not that. You just want to look and see where you are. It's like you get a compass out and just say, okay, here's where I am. Here's where I go. I'm old enough to remember going to the mall. When you go to the mall, wherever you are, and it's got this whole big like menu, this whole big map of all the different possibilities you could go to, all the different shoe places, all the different book places, the bath and body places, and all that sort of stuff. The food court. I mean, of course, there's the food court. There's all this sort of stuff. And then there's this sticker that says, you are here, right? That's really what we're talking about with self-discovery. Just stop and see where you are. And then you ask the question, do I like this person that I'm becoming? Do I like this place that I'm at? Or do I want to change it? Because you absolutely have the power to change it. But don't just go into it with a critical eye so you can see how bad it is. That's not the goal for this at all. So self-discovery is more of an awareness of who am I today and who am I becoming? And then is this person that I'm becoming, is this really who I want to become? Let me ask you a question. What is something you're doing now that the you 5 years from now will thank you for? Something you're doing now that the you 5 years from now will thank you for. This is July of 2022 when we're recording this. So what's something you're doing now that your version of yourself in 2027 will thank you for? Mike, it's kind of a weird question. Like, why are you asking me to see into the future? Like, because this is part of how we evaluate where we are today, and do we want to stay on this path or not? So a couple of questions. What is something you're doing now that the 5 years from now version of yourself will thank you for? Number two, what is something that you 5 years from now would wish you had done a better job of? So maybe it's not a bad thing that you're doing now, but 5 years from now, you wish you would have been a little bit better at it. Maybe it's landscaping. Maybe 5 years from now, you're like, hey, man, I wish you would have been a little bit better at that. For some of us, it's a serious health thing. And maybe the 5 years down the road version said, hey, man, I wish you would have laid off the sugar. Wish you would have got a little bit more active, get a little bit more engaged. What's something that you are doing now? It's not a bad thing, but the 5 years from now version of yourself will wish you had been better at. Now, here's a third question. What's something you're doing now that the 5 years from now you will wish you had stopped? Maybe it's nerds. Maybe you go to Sonic and you get the blast. You get the lemon berry blast and you have them throw some nerds in it. Maybe the 5 years from now version of you would say, hey, man, lay off the nerds. Like whatever it is. What's something that you're doing? What's something that you're still doing now that the 5 years from now version will wish you had stopped altogether? Mike, that's an impossible question. How can I possibly know the answer to that? Well, it's simple. It's math. What's something you today are doing now that you wish you would have stopped 5 years ago? What's something that you're not doing now that you wish you would have started 5 years ago? What's something that you are doing now but you wish you would have turned up the dial on 5 years ago and just gotten better at it? It's not altogether something that we have no agency over, no control, no willpower. It's not that. This is an opportunity for you and me to look and see this is where we are. And I want to turn up the dial and get better in this area, or I got to stop this completely and do something entirely different. I know these are hard questions to answer. There's this metric, really there's these two different ideas when you're talking about personal development and growth. And when you talk about becoming the person that you want to become, really largely you and I will be the same people we are today. We'll be that same person 5 years from now, with the exception of two things: the books we read and the people we meet. We'll be the same person 5 years from now, except for the books we read and the people we meet. And you might, hey, Mike, I don't read a lot of books. Okay, that's fine. I'm not here to throw books at you. That's not what I do. Not really. But let me ask you this: how do you consume content? I mean, now there's not really a wrong option, and really, you could consume content any number of ways. One, you could read, of course. Now Audible, you can get somebody who reads it to you. You can get somebody who reads it to you with a British accent or some other accent that's pleasing to your ears, right? A lot of the authors who write the books, they also actually read the books, right? But there are also these people who are voiceover actors they're paid just to read the book to you. And God bless them. There's not a wrong way to do it. You may say, hey, Mike, I don't really do books. I'm more of a TED Talk guy. Fantastic. Hey, God bless you too, right? Like, there's a reason YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And it's not just because people are saying, hey, Mike, what are you going to talk about next? One of the ways there are so many different ways that you can grow, but you have to be intentional to grow. You can't just sit back and just let it come to you. This is something that you have to seek out. And one of the ways you do that is you stop and you say, okay, who am I now? Who do I want to become? And then you ask this question: what are people who are like the person I want to become? What are they doing? Dave Ramsey says, you want to be rich people? Do rich people stuff. There's lots of different people who phrase it lots of different ways. What I'm really getting at is now the gatekeeper is really gone, and you can become the kind of person that you want to become. You can search that out, and there are so many different resources that will help you do that. One of the things we do here at Mike Conn Coaching and Consulting is we have individual coaching. When someone says, hey, Mike, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. I've got a story to tell. I've got a book to write. I've got a podcast that I want to start. I've got a YouTube channel that I want to grow. I've got this people that I want to affect with my message. Beautiful. We started working with a new coaching client just this past week. Had a great first session. This is something that you can absolutely do. We do group coaching. So it's not just one-on-one. It's, 5, 6, 8, 10 people, just kind of depends. But we're going to have some new group coaching that we're going to open up later in this fall. And so that's going to be a great time as well. Also, what we do is as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is we solve the problem of division and disunity in the workplace. And we do that by helping organizations move their team members or employees to becoming teammates. And there are lots of different ways that we do that. I'm not trying to read you all the stuff that we do. What I'm telling you is, if you want to grow, oh man, we can absolutely help you, and we will walk with you to do that. We're not going to push anything on anybody. We just want you to know that there are so many options available to you. I talked about books. Man, I have all these books. Like, I have a ton of books, and if you would have talked to my English teacher as a high school student, she may not have said, Mike's going to have a big library of books. Yeah. Not only that, he will have read some of them, if not most of them. My senior English teacher, oh man, she helped me write so much. She helped me process things really well. I was in journalism class as a junior, but I wasn't really trying to become like a sports writer on SportsCenter or something like that. I was just learning. But now a lot of the things that I'm reading, I can trace it back to learning about these topics that were really intriguing to me. And so I just want to share a couple of books that I've got here with you today. One of my favorite books, we'll get to that one here in just a second. One of my favorite books is this one. It's by Jeff Henderson, and it's simply called Know What You're For. And man, this book, one of my favorite books I read in the past 3 years. And it's really helped me from a consumer mindset really to go more and be someone who's trying to actively be for people. I don't just want to, I don't want to be known by who I'm against. I refuse to be known by what I'm against. I want to be known by who I'm for. Am I against some stuff? Yeah, sure. Who cares? That nobody's calling me, hey, Mike, what do you think about this? This is a great book that helps you intentionally go after being for people. There's another great book here called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, this book, I love this book for several reasons. And one of my favorite things that James says in this book, because it's really more of a how-to book, and like if you want to lose 50 pounds, let's say, Well, instead of having your big goal to be to lose 50 pounds, what he says is every action that you take is a vote for the person that you want to become. So if you want to lose 50 pounds, don't set out on your goal chart to say lose 50 pounds. Set out to be, okay, when you're thinking of someone who would lose 50 pounds, what's that person like? Well, a person who's losing 50 pounds is going to be someone who doesn't skip 2 days of workouts. They don't miss 2 days of workouts. So every action that you take is a vote for the person you want to become. I can't recommend this book highly enough. This is another one of my favorite books. It's called Soundtracks by Jon Acuff. And it's all about overthinking and how to move it from a super problem to become a superpower. My wife pre-ordered this book for me when it came out. It was like 6 weeks early. And I'm the dude who uses 3 different color highlighters on the book about overthinking. That's true. All the stereotypes apply. I've read this book through a couple of times. I've also bought the audiobook. I listen to it that way. What I'm trying to do in my own personal growth is I'm trying to consume content in the same way I want other people to consume the content that I put out. It's a great book. It's a great way to try to help move this mountain of what all could go wrong or what other people are saying or thinking, and really how to make that something that you can encourage yourself with. So I love this book as well. One more book and then one more book. This book's called The Coffee Bean. It's by John Gordon. I'm a big fan of John Gordon as well. I mean, he used to work at Moe's, and then he was a very critical person. And then his wife told him one day, "Hey, man, I love you. You either got to get better or get out." And so he started taking these gratitude walks, and he also is the author of The Energy Bus, which is also another fabulous book. This book is one of my favorites because it really just takes the idea of an egg, a carrot, and a coffee bean, and you put it in water. One of those things gets hard on the outside. One of those things gets soft and squishy, a little bit too mushy. And then the other thing transforms its entire culture around it. So it's a very good read. Now, the last book I want to bring up to you is actually not a book. It's a library of books. This is my John Maxwell library. It's my own personal John Maxwell library. Here's the thing about John Maxwell. Like, it's all of these books right here. There's some really good ones, and there's some other great books too that are really, really good. But here's the thing I love about John Maxwell. Today, at the time of this recording, John is 74 years old, and he's written 83 books. And he didn't start out wanting to be an author of 83 books. He wasn't even trying to write books in the first place. He just had lunch with his mentor, who was a published author already, and he said, "Why do you write books?" And his mentor said, "Well, John, that's easy. I didn't really want to become an author. I just knew that I wanted my influence to exceed my personal touch." And John was like, "Well, man, I've got to become an author because I also want my influence to exceed farther than I can reach." At Mike Conn Coaching and Consulting, everything that we're doing is not just because we're wanting to do good. We do want to do good for sure. But the reason why is 100 years from now, we want our influence, not just mine, our whole teams. We want our influence to reach far beyond who we could actually touch. So these are books that have helped change me. They've helped me become a better version of the man that I was in 2017, a better husband, a better daddy. I'm a business owner now. I wasn't a business owner back then. There are lots of ways to grow. I'm not saying there's only one way to grow, but what I'm telling you is this is absolutely one way that you can begin doing that. There's this, a lot of people when they're trying to do good, like what we're trying to do, they just jump straight into what they want to do. And they sit down and they start writing, get their pen and paper out, open their laptop, just start writing, and then start trying to push out content. And I think that's not a bad idea. And there's this one technique that I think is really, really helpful whenever you want to produce content, whether it's homework you're trying to do, whether you're studying for a test or a degree or anything like that, or you're just wanting to get better. It's one of the techniques that I use when I'm creating content. But that's the second thing I want to tell you about it. The first thing I want to tell you is first you got to work on you. If you want to produce content, you and I, if we want to produce content, we have to produce that out of the overflow of our life, out of the personal growth that we're experiencing. I mean, that's one of the things that John Maxwell was talking about. He said, you don't set out to write a book and then hope that you have enough words to say. You want to write books out of the overflow of your heart, out of the growth that you've experienced in your life. And when that's the goal, you're not going to run out of things to say. He's 74, and he said on a podcast I listened to just about a week or two ago, he said he still thinks he's got about 20 books left in him. And he doesn't have to leave his house because of all the information that he's cataloged as he was growing. Now, I'm not saying you need to go buy a bigger house so you can have a writing room so all of your papers stay in it, or get a big, gigantic computer and that's got all the files on it. I'm not saying that's how you have to do it. But what I'm saying is, if you and I just jump to where we want to add value to people or where we want people to buy our stuff, we're going to run out of things to say. And when that happens, then you're just kind of looking around saying, well, now who's following me? It's a different conversation then. So the goal is not to get 1,000 subscribers. One of our goals at our organization is to absolutely get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That unlocks a whole new bunch of all kinds of stuff that you don't really care to hear about right now. But that's one of our goals there. But it's not where we start. We've got to continue to grow and take the next right step and the next right step and the next right step and the next right step. And you know what YouTube channels, you know what those channels that have 1,000 subscribers, you know what they do? They publish regularly. You know what we're doing? We're publishing regularly as much as we can. Try to produce good content that's helpful and do it consistently. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals. You absolutely should identify goals. And then once you identify those goals, find other people who are already doing that well, and then do what they do. So the first thing is to invest 600 seconds. That's 2% of your discretionary time. It's 10 minutes. You can set that on your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you've got, set a 10-minute timer, and you just sit down and you write. Or you read, or maybe you're someone who prays, or you meditate. Like take those 600 seconds to grow and become a person who doesn't miss that opportunity to grow. And then after you do that, you can set up to produce content, whatever content you want to produce. If you want to draw, you want to do some sketch notes, hey man, that's awesome, go get at it. You want to write, you want to read, you want to speak, you want a cookbook, whatever you want to do. You want to be someone who makes hammocks, you want to weave it together. I mean, whatever you want to do, invest this time in growing and you'll be able to produce that content. Now, here's the second thing I want to tell you about this. There's this technique that's called the Pomodoro technique. And the Pomodoro technique sounds pretty fancy, sounds a little bit official. All it is you're simply setting aside some time to work on a specific task. The recommended time is 20 to 25 minutes. And so the rhythm of it would be you're going to sit down and you're going to try to write a chapter or you're going to read some of your book. And so you'd set your timer on your phone to read for 25 minutes. So you read for 25 minutes and then you take a break for 5 minutes. Then you come back and you set your timer again to take another lap. And you take another 5-minute break. Then you take another lap. What they recommend on the Pomodoro technique is 4 reps. So you would do that thing where you go 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break, 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. And then after you do 4 of those revolutions, then you take a 15 or 20-minute break. This is a great productivity hack. Like, put your phone on airplane mode. Absolutely. Don't be the prisoner of the moment or the shiny object person like I have been known to be at times. Set aside, make an appointment with yourself. Don't break appointments with yourself. And then set that timer. So you know you've already been growing, so you know you have things to say. And then now you're focused on this task for one 25-minute chunk of time. Now, you might find you've got a longer attention span, and so 25 minutes isn't really enough. You want to go 30 or 40 minutes? That's fine. It fluctuates. But the whole principle is to have a goal, have a system on one of the ways that you create content. So there's one more thing I want to tell you about today, and then we're going to address a couple of questions. Another question that people say, well, man, Mike, that sounds good, but I'm not even really sure where I should begin on that. And what I want to say about that is you just need some maps. You just need some maps. And MAPS is an acronym, right? It's the MAPS. The M is for your mental and emotional awareness. So you want to ask the question, what are you thinking about? How are you feeling? That's the M part of it. This is back to awareness. You and I have to be aware of who we are today, and then to know the trajectory, to see the trajectory of who we're becoming, right? So the M is for your mental and emotional awareness. The A is for your attitude, because there's one thing in life you can always, always, always control, and that's your attitude. If you're having a good day, if you're not having a good day, that's fine. You can hit reset on your attitude. And listen, if you're like me, this week has been, shall we say, full of opportunities to reset your attitude. The truth is, I don't know people who are growing that have a bad attitude, because it's infectious, not in a good way. In your business, that will contaminate the locker room and cause it to become toxic. At your home, if you're someone who walks around yelling and throwing stuff all the time, like, you're not going to be growing. You're going to be someone who's got a bad attitude and it's hard to penetrate. Kind of back to that coffee bean book with the hard-boiled egg, right? Like, it's that kind of a thing. So you've got to know your mental and emotional state. How are you doing? And what are you thinking about? How's your attitude? And then the P is for some physical activity. Like, what are you going to do that's active this week? You're going to take a walk. You're going to go swimming. You're going to go for a walk jog. You're going to run some laps. I don't know what you do. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. Remember, this isn't a self-help. It's not an exercise book. This is not what we do. This conversation is just about helping you become more aware of who you are and then identify who you want to become. So we talked about your mental and emotional situation. What are you thinking about? How are you feeling? What's your attitude like? What's some physical activity you're going to do this week? And then the S is for your social circles. Like, who are you talking to, not about work, wherever you work? If you're a teacher and it's still summertime, who are you talking to, not about school stuff, right? Who are you talking to that's not just, hey, well, we got to try to find the widget to fix this thing? Who are you talking to that's not just about, hey, I'm trying to get my word count up so I can have this book, get the manuscript turned in so it's 64,000 words instead of just 8. Remember all the way back to the earlier part of the conversation. Who you are in 5 years from now will be largely the same person you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. So do you just kind of wait for those people to float into your life and then float back out? Or are you looking? Do you have your head up, your eyes up and saying, okay, who are some people who are already doing some things that I want to be doing? I think that's a great way to do it. So we've got a couple of questions here we're going to get to. But before we get to those questions, I just want to invite you again to subscribe to our channel, to put some of the things you're working on in the comments down here, whether you're watching it on YouTube or another social media channel. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we'd love for you to just leave us a message and let us know what are some things that you're working on. Of course, you can go to our website, MikeConnCoaching.com, and fill out the form and give us some information there as well. We'd love for you to be able to do that. So one of the questions that we get a lot is, hey, Mike, this sounds really good. Where do I start? It's a great question. Take a deep breath and answer this question. Who are you becoming? Who are the people who are following you becoming? If you're a parent or a guardian, these people that are behind me, they're in my rearview mirror. If they're doing the same things I am doing, who are they going to become? Am I okay with that? Are they going to talk to people in public the way that I talk to them in private at home? Who are you becoming? The first thing, and it's kind of a hard thing, but just stop and be aware. And if you're not sure what that looks like, you probably have some people that you trust in your life. You can say, hey, who am I? Who do you think I'm becoming? Especially if it's someone who you've known for a while. If you don't have someone in your life where you can be that vulnerable with, then you have your assignment. Find someone in your life that you can develop a friendship with, who can tell you the truth, answer the hard questions in a way that's not going to just beat you down, but it's going to help you see, okay, this is where we are, and this is the next step to get where we want to go. So the first thing really is just to stop. Just stop. Don't keep doing what you've been doing. Just stop and say, is this the direction that I still want to go with my life? And if it is, fantastic. Look around and see who's doing some of these things that are maybe a little bit further down the road than you, and then find out if they'll partner with you, if they'll help you, if they'll walk with you. It doesn't have to be an official partnership. Of course, if you're wanting to do that with someone, like I said, you can reach out to us at MikeConnCoaching.com, and we would love to walk with you through that. Question number 2. What is the quickest path to personal growth? It's not a download. You can't just go to the app store and say, oh, this is what I want to be just like that person. You know what I really want to do? I want to be able to shoot the jump shot like Steph Curry. So let me go to the app store and just download that Steph Curry gene, and then I can go to the gym and take everybody's money. That's not how that works. You know this is true. So what you've got to do is you've got to look and see, okay, this is who that person wants to become. This is who I wanted to become back in the 90s. Okay, that's who I thought I wanted to become, but this is who I want to become now. I mean, the phase of life that I'm in, like I'm a lot closer to being a grandpa than I am to being a dad for them. My youngest kid is 14 and a half. I don't think it's going to be 14 and a half years before we start having grandkids. So it's a different thing, right? Like I'm in a different phase of my life. That doesn't mean I'm not thinking about dad stuff. I'm, going to get rocking chairs or whatever. Like, that's not what that means. What I'm saying is, as you grow, the things that you want to become and the things that you want to have, those are going to change some. But if you just keep your head down and put one foot in front of the other, before you know it, you look up and it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years and you're still doing the same thing. And then expecting different results. I mean, we know that's the definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing and expect some different results. So you can't just look around and see who these other people are becoming and say, yeah, I want that, and do that. You've got to look around and see, who do I want to become, and who are some people who are already doing that. And then you can start trying to move some of their routines into your life. The last question for today. Am I ever going to get there? Yeah, maybe, or maybe not. It just kind of depends on where you want to go. But here's what I know is true. You're making progress. You're making some steps. It might be baby steps. It might be teeny tiny baby steps. But think about kids. I mean, they don't just automatically at 10 months, put on Nikes and start running laps. They might be wobbling and then falling and then getting back up, but they're making progress. And you and I are not the people who watch a new walker and we start throwing stuff at them, like on, Wipeout, and trying to watch them crash and burn. We don't do that. We don't try to make it harder for them. We celebrate everything, every little bitty thing that they do. I'm not saying you should just go to the mirror every day and say, it's okay, pumpkin. Look at you. You're doing so many great things. What I am saying to you is there are things that you're doing that you're really good at. And even if you're not quite good at them yet, you're much better than when you started. We've got to learn to celebrate the wins, especially inside of our own life, especially inside of our own home, with your spouse, with your kids, with your grandkids, with whoever's in your life, but also celebrate them with yourself. I don't know where you are spiritually. I'm a dude who tries to follow Jesus the best way I know how, and I'm going to end this episode with a quote that I read on my Bob Goff calendar this week. Bob Goff, he's another great author, great speaker. He takes his shoes off a lot when he talks. I've got a book up there. I think I've got another couple of books of his. And I've got this calendar every day that kind of gives me a little bit of encouragement. And there are some days I don't even go to it. But this week I've gone to that calendar every single day. And a couple of days ago, I flipped it over and it said, if I'm just thinking about all the ways that I messed up, then it's like saying, I don't really believe God can take care of me. You and I are not people who are naturally, most of us are not naturally overly encouraging. We're more critical, right? Especially of ourselves. And the truth is, you say things to the person in the mirror that you would never say out loud to another human. So, might I recommend this book to you? This is going to help you look for some of the great things that are already happening in your life, and then celebrate those. And then what's going to happen when you start doing that for yourself, as you look around, you'll see other people doing some great things, and you know what you're going to start doing? You're going to start celebrating them as well. Your attitude's going to be better. And then that doesn't mean your life's going to be perfect, but it just is a reminder that you don't have to figure it out on your own. You've got people. We're so proud of you and what you're doing and the way that we're getting a chance to engage with this community. And if there's anything that we can do to serve you better, we would love to hear from you. So you can go to our website, MikeConnCoaching.com. We'd love to hear from you there. And of course, we'd love for you to subscribe and share and leave comments. And if there's anything we can do to serve you, just let us know and we'll do everything we can for you. Thanks. Have a fantastic day.